Right, I finally caught up with Euan MacFarlane after our Tuesday night disaster phone call that never actually happened.
I was a naughty boy, wasn't I?
You certainly were. From a 6:30 call to a 7:30 and it still never happened.
Aye. I had looked at my mate, in my head for some strange reason I thought, it's definitely 7:30, and then I thought, I've not heard anything yet. And I looked at my phone and there was a text and I thought, oops, a daisy. And then when I looked back in Messenger, it was supposed to be 6:30, so my bad, guilty as charged.
So tell me a wee bit about yourself and what kind sort of first got you into music?
So I've been in love with music for as long as I can remember. I was brought up in a very musical family. My mum and I remember being a wee boy and my mum used to play the Beatles and the Stones, and I remember she was in the kitchen doing whatever she was doing, and her and I used to harmonise to the Beatles, and I was probably, I was maybe 4, maybe even a wee bit younger. So my grandfather played jazz piano. He had a room where he went and smoked his King Edward cigar, played some jazz, single malt whiskey. My father was a folk musician, so he used to do a circuit touring doing folk music like Cat Stevens and Jim Croce, stuff like that. So it's always been there. I've always loved it, always.
Brilliant. So you released your debut solo album in October last year, coming round to this year as well in October with Milk. Last year was Always Everlong. When I came across your music, obviously, and your first single from it, Stirring in the City, I first played and validated as well on my show. You're back, as I say, 1 year on with Milk. Tell me a wee bit about the process of this album compared to After Everlong.
Sure. So basically, it's been a mental year. I always, when I get something in my head, I need to go for it, and I challenge myself to release 2 albums within the space of a year, and I've been doing it all cottage industry style on my own with Jo, my wife, managing me. So we're doing it all in house, and we've been non-stop, but it's very gratifying, certainly. Milk is a very, very different record from Always Everlong. Always Everlong, for example, it was dedicated to my songwriting heroes, the likes of Tom Petty. He's like a musical god to me, to be honest with you. Bruce Springsteen. I was a big Fleetwood Mac fan as well, so I wanted that album to have that kind of Americana, I suppose, type styling about it. When it came to writing and producing Milk, I'd done a few tunes. If you hear any background noise, we're actually in the voodoo rooms right now, so everybody's making loads of noise. I think you can hear kitchen staff, bar staff, probably roadies, you name it, but that's rock and roll as we know. Milk was, I got a few songs into it and I realised that after 5 songs, they were all very different with regard to feel and groove, but there was one thing they all had in common, and they were all about my wife Jo. And I thought, because I never really realised. I thought, right, I'm going to attempt to write a record, and for it not to be boring, and write all about this amazing relationship that I've been, 50% of for the past 22 years. The ups, the downs, being honest about it, and that's what it ended up being. So I suppose essentially Milk's a concept album about...
Why the title Milk?
Really, there's really no proper reason, purely because there's a song on it which is released, as the 4th single, and the song is called Milk, and I just thought, Milk, I think I'm going to call my album that. So there wasn't any real kind of, enlightening moments as to what it was. I just loved the name of the track, and I thought, right, okay, I've got my album name right there. And I kind of started seeing ideas of the artwork in my head and went back and forth. I chat over things with Joe, my wife, constantly. What do you think of this and what do you think of that? And she's really honest. And if she doesn't like it, trust me, she'll tell you she doesn't like it. But that's the story behind it.
Well, what was that? What was the idea with obviously women's lips? What was the idea behind that as well? I was quite intrigued by that.
Well,
Thinking you've got like a name of an animal called Milk, and you've got like an image of obviously women's lips.
Yeah. Honestly, I just thought it looked sexy. It really just comes down to that. I think sometimes in rock and roll you can be provocative without being too showy, if that makes sense. So if you focus on something that's really feminine, i.e. my wife's lips, you know, I don't know how you feel.
So it's a bit like the Stones then?
Possibly, I don't know what was going through their head at the time, but you know, for me, it was just an image, a vision that I seen, and I thought, right, okay, pair of hot lips red lips against a pink background. It's kind of rock and roll, but almost in a camp style, if that makes sense. So, kind of pushed to go that way, I suppose.
So you performed in 3 bands: the Grim Northern Social, Manscat and Apollo 440. Playing your final show with the band in 2018 in front of 30,000 fans in Seville. What made you decide to go solo? And do you have any regrets with going solo now than when you were in these 3 bands?
Definitely not. It was time. The time came
just to branch out.
I just wanted to try something different. You know, I was the Apollo 440 frontman, and it was wonderful, and I love those guys so much. They're like brothers to me. But there came a time that I just wanted to get back into writing songs. That's a sound check, by the way, for the other band. I just wanted to start writing songs on my acoustic guitar again, like a classic kind of rock and roll style. And I thought, right, now's the time to go solo at the tender age of 50. But you know, I don't mind that. Age doesn't scare me whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, I'm in my prime right now. You know, I'm always a glass half full kind of guy. You know, I'm very positive. You know, I'm positive about music, I'm positive about life. It doesn't mean that I won't write a heartbreaker. I have up and down days like anybody else. But that's where I. So no regrets at all with leaving the bands.
So you've shared the stage with big names: Simple Minds, The Prodigy, Thin Lizzy, Muse, to name a few. Who's your biggest influence?
Who's my personal biggest influence?
Yes.
I think as a songwriter, I mean, that's such a hard question because I just love music and I love so much music. I love going back, I love 60s rock, 60s R&B, I love 60s soul music, Motown, right through the ages. Talking from a songwriter's point of view, Tom Petty's a huge influence on me. I love Tom Petty, I love Bruce Springsteen. But even going back to when I was a kid, I was actually into Simple Minds when I was a teenager. So when I was in the Grim Northern Social and Jim Kerr phoned up to ask if we would do the British tour with them, I was like, oh, you know, it was like...
Yeah. How old were you back then?
Back then, I was probably about 30 back then. So I was still, you know, I was a mature guy.
Yeah.
But the Grim Northern Social, for me, were an awesome band, and they should have done more. They should have get more recognition than what they did, but that's just music. There's loads of great bands out there that never got to reach the heights of what they should have. But
do you think that, in my perspective, do you think it comes down to radio then, and what's actually out at that time?
I think it comes down to the record company. You know, they've got a responsibility to put into it as much as they can. I'm not blaming anybody, by the way, because that's not cool. I'm not the kind of person that throws blame at people. The bottom line is, we never made it to what I believe we should have, and you move on. That's just shit happens.
Mm-hmm. So you played 3 consecutive nights at King Tut's Glasgow 2 years ago, running with the Grim Northern Social. Mm-hmm. Is it harder for you now, being a solo musician, to get your music out there? When you were in a band, is it harder now for you? to get the music out being a solo artist?
I don't think it's harder whether you're a solo artist or a band. It's more saturated these days, which is, there's good and bad in that. And the good in that is that anybody can make a record, and I encourage people to do it. I really encourage people to do it. If you're young, if you're old, whatever, you know, everybody can get their tunes on Spotify, and that's a wonderful thing. Or whatever platform it is. They're crap at paying you, by the way, so just be careful. Always, that's why it's so important to sell merch and stuff like that. But I just think it's harder to make it bigger these days, if that makes sense. Whereas back in the day, when let's say the majors literally controlled everything, that's no longer the case. You know, the people have taken back the power, and the people can make the music that they want to make. They've not got a record company or an A&R man telling them, oh, you can't do that, or you can't do that, or that style doesn't fit with that. It's like, it's bollocks. You know, you do what you want to do. You're an artist, so you do what feels right on any given day.
Do you think your music's evolved over the years now than when you first started out then? Even as a songwriter now, do you think it's going a different direction now?
I just, whether it's where I'm at just now with Milk, the album shouldn't work. It shouldn't work because there's so many different styles in it. There's rock, there's indie, there's soul. It shouldn't work as a piece of art. But for me personally, it's the best piece of work that I've done to date. I'm very, very proud of it. So, with regard to evolution, I think you're always evolving as an artist, and again, age has no relevance. You know, I remember reading an interview with David Bowie when he was, I think he was 50, whatever age he was, God rest his soul, genius an artist. And people saying, oh, you're not trying to kind of think out the box a bit much, and Bowie was like, what are you talking about? I'm just being me. I've always done what I'm doing. I'm not, you know, pushing hard just to be different for the sake of it. I'm just doing what I've always done. And I always remember that stuck in my head, and it was so true. It was so true. I think you've just got to follow your heart. Not everybody's going to like it, but those that do, you've got a wee thing going with them, and that's the most important thing.
So what can we expect with the release on the 28th of October from you, MacFarlane, and within the months and next year ahead? Have you got plans in the pipeline?
Yeah, I just won't stop.
For touring?
I won't stop. I'm going to be touring hopefully next year a hell of a lot more. There's a lot of, you know, postponements because of COVID and stuff like that. Believe it or not, they're still happening. So getting booked into festivals, you're 2 years behind because of COVID. It's a crazy thing. Again, that's where that shit happens. You just better not complaining and moving on with it. With regard to Milk, I'm really looking forward to getting this released. I think it's a really interesting, great record. I'm very proud of it. I've already started writing my next record. You know, that's just the way I am.
Have you got a title for it?
No, not
oh,
yet.
You can't give that away at the moment.
I genuinely don't have a clue what it's going to be called. I don't even know if the songs that I've written to date are definitely going to make the record. I've got, as we sit, I've probably got about 5 albums worth of songs there anyway. If I had to have, you know, writer's block or whatever it was, fortunately, touch wood, that's never happened to me. I just keep writing. Writing's easy for me because you look at situations, or, you know, I could sit in the pub tonight and look at a situation where, I don't know, 2 mates taking a piss at each other, a man and a woman arguing with each other. There's a song in that.
Right,
you know, there's a song in everything. There's a song in this. You know, everything you do, there's a song in it, and that's a beautiful thing. You know, if you're a true writer, you will take inspiration from almost anything, and I love that.
Well, I'm really looking forward to your gigs, first time seeing you as well, hopefully more times when you come back to Edinburgh or even Glasgow as well, I'd be quite happy to make that travel through to Glasgow.
That would be cool, man.
Have you got like Facebook or Twitter, or if people want to get in touch with you regarding your music?
Absolutely. If you go to Euan MacFarlane Music Facebook page, I'm MacFarlane 440 on Twitter. 440 being the Apollo connection, obviously, but that's been my tag up there for years and years. Euan MacFarlane Music on Instagram. So if you're interested, come, engage, follow me, listen to my rubbish patter. I'm always good for a bit of bad patter, so it'd be good. The more the merrier. The more the merrier. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, it's been a pleasure finally getting an interview with you, Euan.
Likewise.
And I'm looking forward to the gig, well, probably in about an hour's time.
I'll be jumping about like a nutcase shortly.
Thanks very much,
Take
Euan.
it easy,
Thank
man.
you.
Cheers,
Thank
man.
you.
Cheers.